Okay. Let's continue. People are missing. Well, anyway. Let's start again with some breathing. Some breathing meditation. To let go of whatever disruptive thoughts that may arise in our mental continuum. I could have used this. Never mind. Alright, so just to have settled the mind, we don't need to do the prayers. We did it this morning. So, because we have still a lot to do. And I understand you've had a lot of discussions. Okay, good, very good. We'll have time for questions. So then we'll deal with some of the questions you've had and hopefully they'll be answered now. And now we get into selflessness with the next chapter. So chapter 18, that's the chapter, 26 is the one that His Holiness usually teaches, and then thereafter 18. Have you read in advance? Do you understand it? Yeah, some of it. Some of it. Pardon? Bits and pieces. Yeah, some of it is clear, some of it needs to be explained, of course. So the 18th chapter, examination of the self and phenomena. Having explained previously how misapprehension of reality, of ourselves, of phenomena in general, is the cause for our existence with this limited mind and body, and of course the suffering and the problems that come along with this. Now the question is, how do phenomena actually exist? And it starts off right away, taking it right into emptiness, taking us right into emptiness. Saying that if the self existed, what would be the absurdity? If there were, so focusing in this context less on phenomena other than the self, but if we understand how the self, if we really go to the deepest level with regard to how the self does not exist, then it's very easy with regard to other phenomena. It's very easy. You only need to focus now not on the self, but on the body and other phenomena. But of course there are different levels of no self. There's a coarser level, a subtler, and then the subtlest level. So there are at least 3 levels with regard to how the self can be misunderstood. And as Nagarjuna says in the Ratnavali, or in the Precious Garland, as long as there's grasping at phenomena, there's grasping at self, which basically means that if you refute the self, and you think, okay, I've understood selfless self, I understood emptiness of this self. And then you turn at tables and other phenomena or your own body, and they still seem to be as solid as before, well, that means you still have grasping of inherent existence, as in like you still believe in the inherent existence of the table, so you haven't gone deep enough with regard to this self. Meaning that you've refuted something, which is great, but there's even more to be refuted, because once, as I just said, you understand on the deepest level how the self cannot exist, then it doesn't matter. With other phenomena, you need to think about it for a second, for a moment, but right away you go, oh, that's also true for other phenomena. Okay? So here those chapter starts off with the self, and as you notice, it refutes the self. Now we make one mistake when we try to understand emptiness. Very classic mistake, which is such a big mistake that we have a really hard time of understanding emptiness. We have a really hard time. What is the mistake we make? We refute the self a little bit, but it's kind of boring. Who wants to refute the self? It's like, okay, yeah, not there, all right. And then we try as hard as we can to understand how it exists. But we've never really refuted anything. So we still have a sense of an inherent I, an intrinsic I, an inherent body, an inherent this, that, and the other. And now we try to make being merely imputed or what have you, try to make it work. And of course it doesn't work. Something that exists inherently cannot be merely imputed. Do you see what I'm saying? So we struggle so much with it because we don't spend enough time negating. Right away we go into, how does it exist? We're more interested in this aspect. Why? Because we're so used to always thinking in an affirmative way. Things exist like this, like that. We're not really interested in negating. But as you can see, the text starts with first negating, saying, if the self really existed, that would be the absurdity. So therefore it cannot exist in that way. Okay? Now what does it say? The first two lines. If the aggregates were the self, it would have to arise and cease. But like I said before, those are very terse. These are very terse writings for the sake of memorization, and a lot of it needs to be added in between. So you can add sometimes, but usually that's why you have the explanation that is given in the commentaries, etc. That helps you to read between the lines. But basically it means if... Well, what does it mean? What does the first line mean? What do you think? If the aggregates were the self, it would have to arise and cease. What does that say?
Because the aggregates arise and cease, then also the self would have to be the same. The self would have to arise and cease.
But does the self not arise and cease?
Not according to this is not, if it's inherently existing, then we're not.
Okay. But why do we say if it were the aggregates? The aggregates exist, but the self doesn't. Why does it say if the self were the aggregates, it would have to arise and cease? If it were different from the aggregates, it would not have the characteristics of the aggregates. Well, what does this actually say?
If it was one with the aggregates. Yeah, because I think we tend to, with the aggregates of attachment, people think that it is one with the self. But,
do you think your I is one with yourself, with your body?
No, I'm thinking that the whole process of the five aggregates, that when it's being recognized, there's a tendency to think that this is the self.
Okay.
That it is one with the self.
What about different here? But it here also argues if it were different from the aggregates, then you don't need to say that because we already think the I is one with the aggregates. Sorry, in the third line it says, if it were different from the aggregates, but we don't need to say that because what you just said, according to that, well, the self seems to be one with the aggregates. Well, then if it seems to be one, we don't need to look at it being different from the aggregates.
If it exists, it has to be either one with the aggregates or different from the aggregates.
So what Manu is saying is, if the I existed inherently, either it is one with body and mind, or it's different from body and mind. Okay. If the I existed conventionally, would that also be true? I mean, I exist conventionally. So the I exists conventionally. Is the I, if it exists conventionally, is it either one with the aggregates or different from the aggregates?
Nowadays,
Shacha?
Conventionally, one with the aggregates, but it's not ultimately one with the aggregates.
Yeah, but here it's like here this is not saying it has to be ultimately one or ultimately different from the aggregates. It's saying even truly existent, inherent existent I existed, there are two possibilities as to mind and body. Either it's one or different. Well, that is also true for the conventional I. It's either one or different. Yes?
I think it's on the first two lines, right? He's trying to say that if it was one with the aggregates, then when we die, the self will die too.
Yeah, that is true. I agree with this. But my question is still with regard to why does it have to be one or different? First of all, if the self existed inherently, why would it have to be either one with the aggregates or different? Why is there no third possibility? Number one. And also the same argument could go with the conventionally existent self. If, with regard to the conventional existent self, which we say exists, does it also have to be either one with the aggregates or different? And if yes, which one?
What would be the third possibility?
Well, why is there no third possibility?
There is, but if you negate, I mean, if you negate, we can claim that the I is both one and different, or neither one or different, but then I think if we negate that it is not one and not other than, then it's easy to negate that it's not both and not
Neither.
neither.
Okay, both and neither we don't need to look at. I mean, if you understand it's not this and not that, then you understand it's neither.
It's not neither.
It is neither. It's neither one nor different.
But why does
That's
it?
what we're negating
Why
here.
is it, can it be just the mind? If it's
Not
just
both, yeah. Pardon?
if it is just the mind, then it's not the body, but it's also not. It's not the body mind, but it's also not different from mind and body. If it is just the mind.
Okay.
If it's the same, no point of saying I. It's aggregate.
No, you're right. You're all right. You're right about being one. No, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yes, of course, you're right. If the I were one with the aggregates, these would be the consequences. They'd be absurd. If the I were different from the aggregates, yes, absolutely, you're right. But my point is, first of all, why are there only two possibilities? Let's take it slowly and think logically, step by step, not jump. So, if the I were to exist, why would it have to be either one or different from the aggregates? This far, only this much. Why?
Everything could be only identical or not identical with something else.
Okay, very good. First step. Whatever, if you take two things, either they're identical or they're different. That makes sense. Okay, very good. But it's a little bit more than this here. It is saying that if the inherently existent I if an inherently existent I existed, it would have to either be one with mind and body or totally separate from mind and body. It's not just saying different, it's saying disconnected. Okay? This is the argument here. Because, like I said, with regard to the aggregates, if the conventional I, well, it does exist. The conventional I exists. So it also has to be one with the aggregates or different from the aggregates. What is it? Is it one with the aggregates or different?
Dependent on.
No, one or different.
One.
Ah! Ah, okay, I should have not told you about the totally separate. That's not clear yet. Okay, all right, okay. If the conventional existent I, why do we say mind and body? Why do we say if the I existed and then we take it back to mind and body? Very simple, very simple.
Aggregates, body, and mind.
Because our notion is somewhere here.
Yes, the notion is somewhere here. We have a sense like, think of yourself as I. I is not like over there, right? I mean, it's bizarre. We don't even need to mention it, but just to become aware, where is your sense of self located? Sometimes the question arises like, is there a sense it's somewhere? Let's take step by step, just to take you step by step through the logic. So, is there a sense of an I being here somewhere?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there a sense it's in a certain place? in the eye?
Here, in the center of the body, somewhere.
No?
Ah,
Yeah.
in the center of the body? Oh, here.
Not in the center here, in the center here. In this-
Oh, so Nissim is just very practical here. Just say the whole thing. But sometimes does it feel the eyes here?
Yeah, where there's pain here.
Well, even if there's no pain, does it feel like...
Before I was Buddhist, I was feeling that the eye is here. And
Okay.
slowly it came here, but sometimes...
And now it's kind of both.
Yeah.
Oh, so sometimes here and sometimes there. Not here, right?
Yeah.
Not here. Okay. But if it's really... For who does it feel like it's at the center of your chest? At times.
At times.
At times, okay. But when you feel like the eye is in the center of the chest, does it really feel like your head is above and your belly is below?
No.
No, right?
That's why I say in the middle.
But does it feel like your hand is on the right side and you're like in the center? It doesn't feel like that either.
It feels more like the whole complex.
So you see, it's really bizarre. At times we feel like it's here, but the moment we think about it, it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, my right hand is over here, my left hand is over there, my head is above, and it doesn't really feel like that either. So it's very subtle, like sometimes it's there, and the moment we think about it, it's everywhere again. Okay, just to make this, to clarify this, our sense of I. You understand what I'm trying to get at? There is a sense, okay, it's right in my chest at times, but that is just a fleeting moment that is not very pronounced. Why? Because we still don't feel, oh, my eye is here, or my head is above, and my belly is below, and my right hand is over. It doesn't feel like that. If we really had a strong sense of the eye being located here, it would be like, oh, my head is right there, and my legs are down there. But it doesn't feel like it. Feels like this is all the eye. Also, if someone kicks me in the knee, I don't think like, oh, someone kicked me below the eye. Right? It's like they kicked me. They hurt my knee. They hurt me. They really hurt me. They kicked me in the knee. So they hurt me. Okay? So again, there's a sense the eye is also there, because if someone kicks me in the knee, or if someone, I don't know, steps, like, like when you walk and someone steps into your shoes and you're like about to fall, so they make me trip. Those are only your legs. The eye is here. That part doesn't feel that way. Yeah, just to get in touch a little bit with the sense. Okay, so eye seems to be really pervasive, but mind and body. Okay, so therefore it makes sense we need to analyze this area. And now we check if it exists with regard to mind and body here, and this inherently existent self, it's either one with it or different from it. Okay, but that is also true for the I that does exist. I exist. There's a conventionally existent I. It's either one with mind and body or it's different from mind and body. So big deal. How does that help me to recognize? But of course, here, the second attribute that we need to look at. Yes?
I think the difference between the conventional eye and the ultimate eye
Yes.
is that the first one doesn't have to go through critical analysis. So what you asking about, well, is it like this also for the conventional eye? It's not like this. The conventional eye doesn't have to go through this.
Of course it has to go through. It doesn't have to go through analysis?
No.
Oh, that would be terrible if you don't have to analyze the conventional self. So the conventional I gets away with, we kind of accept it, just like we don't need to analyze it.
This is why it exists, because it's not being analyzed.
Oh, it can be analyzed?
It doesn't have to. It doesn't stand in ultimate.
Ultimate analysis. Ultimate. Just analysis is possible. But ultimate analysis as in like, what makes the I? So there's a difference between analysis in general and ultimate analysis. I can still analyze. Does it exist or not? Yes. The conventional I. Is it just labeled? Yes. Just labeled or not? I can still say things about it, right?
It sounds like me like ultimate analysis. Is it labeled or not? Is it existing or not?
Okay, so every time someone analyzes, you're saying ultimately, you think my mom engages in ultimate analysis when she analyzes how much money she's got in the bank?
She's not analyzing the actual existence of herself.
No, but she's analyzing.
Yeah.
She's analyzing conventional money, right?
No.
Oh, money must...
Just
For money to exist, it has to be conventional, right? Conventional money and money are the same, aren't they? Is there a difference between money and conventionally existent money?
No.
No, right? Well, no, what do you think? Is there a difference between money and conventionally existent money?
I don't know what you mean by money.
Is money necessarily conventionally existent money? And is conventionally existent money necessarily money?
Money
Well,
is
you have Bitcoin.
Money is necessarily have two natures: ultimate, which is emptiness, and conventional, which is.
No, I didn't ask that. I didn't ask whether it's got two natures.
You cannot-
Whatever is money, is it necessarily conventionally existent money?
I don't know what you mean by money. If you mean by conventional money.
Kesef. Shekel. No, forgive me for doing what I do to you right now. This is just a debate. So this is just in the context of a debate. So money versus conventionally existent. No, my point is just I'm being cheeky here, like just debating with you for the sake of debate. But no, what I'm saying is actually there are two types of analysis. Usually the way we talk about it is like, let's say there's a pen, okay? I lost my pen, or I'm going to buy a pen. So I'm going to analyze the pen. What kind of pen do I need? Oh, I need like this big, I need it to write with ink or not with ink, etc. So I can actually just analyze. That would be an ordinary kind of analysis. But ultimate analysis is saying like, what makes the pen the pen? So this is what I was trying to argue, like saying actually you can analyze anything, a scientist analyzes things, a conventionally existent I even, but they're not aware that it is a conventionally existent I, and plus the analysis does not actually deal with the mode of existence. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, but the question whether the pen composed of is
Ink
edge or is
yeah.
needle or not?
Yeah, that's an analysis.
Conventional analysis is ultimate analysis.
No. If I say, I need a pen, like just my sister who has never heard about emptiness.
Is it blue or green? This is conventional.
Well, what kind of pen do I need? A long pen or a short pen? Right? An ink pen or not an ink pen? I can still analyze. Scientists analyze all the time. What is the structure of this table? What molecules is it made up of? Right? They're not looking for what makes the table, but they still analyze it. That's important. This distinction is important because we can still analyze. People analyze things all the time. But then, what makes a table a table? Then there's a certain way of looking at it. It's slightly different. Okay? Just dealing with like the parts and just looking, and this is this, it has this part, etc. Versus going, where's the pen within the pen? Okay. And here we're doing that. We're actually looking for the self. So the self, where's the self within the mind and body? First by checking the relationship. Either if it's somewhere to be found here, either it's one with the body or different. Okay, one or different. But different needs to be specified. What do I mean with different? Just different or a little bit more than different? Different or a little bit more than different? Please. A little bit more. Detached. Okay, so if the I really existed as part of mind and body, no, the ultimate. The ultimate I. It would either have to be one with mind and body or totally separate.
Like no intersection.
No interaction.
Intersection is like the intersect, like the two separate.
Oh, there's nothing that is both. No common
there's
locus.
Nothing that is common for the both of them.
Oh, okay.
So that's why
Let me just finish this. So, okay. So either it's one with it or different. Or there's something that is both. But if something is both, it's still different.
Right, but completely different, it means there's nothing in common with them, or different that some has a little bit more or less than the other.
Similarities.
In group theory,
Similar or different is, it means that there's at least one characteristic that is
Common
is
locus.
common, in common.
A common locus. So there's something that is an I and a body, part of a body. Are you saying that? What kind of relationship would you suggest? This is why it's a little bit difficult, this idea, there is a relationship between the conventional I and the aggregates, which is, it's not one, but it's also not separate.
Yeah.
What is that?
Shape, for example.
Sometimes.
No, what is that relationship? Well, how do you describe that relationship?
Part of something.
The mind and the body on one hand, and the conventionally existent I. It connects, it's not identical, obviously, but it's also not totally separate.
Subset.
Subset.
The boss.
The boss. Not the boss.
Based on.
Okay,
What
based on.
contains the other, perhaps?
Based on works.
Identification.
Pardon?
Imputed?
Imputed, yes, imputed is how it exists, that's true, but the relationship is different, but not totally different.
Identify, identification, how do you say it in English? It is the
Depends on.
It depends. Okay, it depends. They depend on each other. That's already good. Basis and depending on each other. But if an inherently existent I existed, this dependence could not take place. Why?
it's inherent.
Why? If it's inherent, it doesn't depend on the aggregates.
Because they change
It
that.
doesn't depend about things.
Exactly. Inherent existence means independent existence. Okay? So, this is very complicated. This is very difficult. Have you ever heard of a relationship being of one nature? Have you heard that term? Two things are different, but nonetheless they're of one nature. They are of one nature. This is a concept that doesn't exist in English.
There's like a soup, it has its qualities, and if you take one of the qualities, one is like its saltiness or things that makes a soup, but none of them, those qualities are the soup. Or
That's an example. That's an example. That is an example. A soup and its quality. They are of one nature. Here we're talking about conventional existence.
Yeah.
Dependence or relationship? When you say one nature, you say this is...
They are of one nature, not one nature.
Dependence is not... When you speak about dependence...
Dependence can mean different things. Something can be can have a cause and effect relationship, and they're dependent on each other. But that doesn't mean they are of one nature.
Because you said one nature is a kind of dependence. Or
It's a type of dependence, but there are other types of dependence.
But it is a type of dependence.
It's a type of dependence. It's a type of dependence.
Nature.
To be of one nature. He gave the example of the soup and the qualities of the soup.
So a wild cat
It's
and
one
lion.
entity.
Pardon?
It's when you look at you point at the thing, you point at the same thing for both the things.
The same for the
If
thing.
you look at the soup and you look at the aggregates of the soup or whatever you call it, you have to point on the same soup. Then it's the same nature. It's one entity.
like
Yeah, one,
Give more examples.
No, that's not how it's different.
when Geshe explained it, he said,
Uh-huh.
when first, just to introduce, he said, when two things are one essence, one nature,
Of one essence.
of one essence,
Mhm.
of one, when you point at one, you actually also point on the other one. For example, if you point at the color of the shirt, you point at the shirt as well. It's
Well,
not
that's a
the
bit-
real it's not the real meaning, but
No. But saying that wouldn't work. If you have to point at one, you have to point at the other. That would be like saying if you point at the person, you have to point at the arm of the person. It works the other way around. But you need to be specific here. You see, the moment you debate it, it doesn't work.
it wasn't for the sake of debate. Was it?
But you still need to be precise enough because you can
You
misunderstand.
need to be precise. It is. So you need